Once upon a time in a quiet corner of Toronto, before there was ever a Six God, before rap became globalized, and before hip-hop infiltrated every crevice of pop culture, there was a rapper who didn't follow the charts. He didn't chase mainstream validation, platinum plaques, or cosigns from big-name producers. Instead, he found himself immortalized in a different way. Not through the radio, but through arcade cabinets. This is the story of Infinite, the Canadian rapper whose voice helped define the sound of one of the greatest fighting games of all time, Street Fighter III: Third Strike. In the late 90s, hip-hop was evolving. Mainstream rap was dominated by East Coast gritty lyricists and West Coast bounce. Meanwhile, in Canada, the scene was much smaller but potent. Artists like Choclair, Maestro Fresh West, and Ghetto Concept were carving out their place in a country that wasn't even known for rap yet. One of the members of Ghetto Concept was a young MC named Desmond Francis, better known as Infinite. He had a strong voice, tight pen, and a presence that stood out. After leaving the group, Infinite went solo, and in 1997 released 360, a track that got real attention.
Yo, I tell you about the drama of this wild girl for real. She was wilder than most of them streets cats for real. The Black Pamela Anderson.
He even earned a Juno nomination, one of Canada's biggest music awards. Now, halfway across the globe in Japan, Capcom was preparing to launch their next installment of Street Fighter, and they were taking a bold new direction. Street Fighter III was Capcom's chance to reimagine their flagship fighter for the modern arcade scene. Third Strike, the final version of Street Fighter III, was the most polished, stylish, and musically ambitious release yet. Unlike earlier Street Fighter games that leaned on rock or classical inspired music, Third Strike was dripping with urban sound. It had jazz, breakbeats, house, drum and bass, and hip-hop. The man behind most of the experimental soundtrack was Hideki Akugawa, a composer who wasn't afraid to draw attention from Western music. And for the voice of the game, the actual rapping, that's where Infinite comes in. He was brought on to record vocals for several key tracks, most famously Let's Get It On, the character select theme, Third Strike, Fight With Me, the game's main theme, and possibly others. Capcom never gave a full breakdown, but his voice is unmistakable. Infinite wasn't just some filler feature, they trusted him to embody the spirit of the game. High skill, high energy, and no fluff. It's easy to forget, but this was 1999. Video game companies rarely involved actual rappers in their soundtracks. This was before Def Jam Vendetta, before NBA Street Volume 2 went full hip-hop, and way before Travis Scott was doing Fortnite concerts. This was authentic. Infinite's lyrics weren't gimmicky or nothing like that. He wasn't rhyming punch with bunch. He was elevating the energy of the game. Lines like, "This is a fight to the finish, so dig it. Yo, if you ain't with it, then forget it." Or, "Now let's get it on like Marvin. I got more heat than hot sauce. Shut up! I bring the pain you can't cope, more deadly than the dope you smoke." These weren't throwaway bars or anything that was written in 5 minutes. No, they matched the competitive tension Third Strike was known for. Every parry, every frame perfect punish, Infinite's voice was a perfect backdrop to the weight of those split-second decisions. And because of how often players interacted with these themes, selecting characters, starting matches, reloading into rounds, his voice became part of the game's muscle memory. Even if you didn't know who Infinite was, you knew those vocals. So here's the big question. Why did Capcom choose a Toronto rapper for a Japanese fighting game? The full behind the scenes story is still a bit unclear. Capcom has never released an official breakdown of how they found Infinite, but it likely comes down to a few key factors. Infinite had a growing reputation in the underground hip-hop scene, especially in Canada. Toronto was a multicultural hub where both Japanese and North American media crossed over easily, and most importantly, his voice was perfect for the game. Capcom didn't need a big name. They needed someone real, someone gritty, someone with that raw sound, and Infinite delivered. It wasn't about any clout, it was about finding the perfect fit. Even though Infinite never became a household name, his voice lasted decades. Street Fighter III: Third Strike is now considered one of the greatest fighting games ever made, not just for its mechanics, but for its atmosphere. And Infinite's performance is part of that DNA. To this day, fans remix his vocals, quote his bars, and reference his energy. And you'll hear players humming a select screen beat or quoting, "Yeah, it's Street Fighter Third Strike, yo." Now, where's Infinite now? After his brief impactful run, Infinite stayed active in music, though mostly underground. He dropped a few solo projects in the early 2000s, stayed around the Toronto scene, and kept a low profile. But to fans of Third Strike, he's a voice of an entire generation. He made a surprise appearance at Capcom Cut 2018 where he performed his track live nearly 20 years after the game dropped, and the crowd went wild. That moment was a reminder, even if you're not topping Billboard charts, culture remembers impact. So next time you find yourself playing Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, remember, behind that voice is a story. A Canadian MC with a dream who ended up being a part of one of the most iconic soundtracks in gaming history. You see, Infinite didn't need 1 million streams, he just needed one perfect round. And that is the story of the Canadian rapper Infinite and his generational run with Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. If y'all enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a thumbs up. If you didn't, leave a thumbs down. And let me know down in the comments below, what's your favorite track from Street Fighter 3 Third Strike? Mine personally is going to be the main theme. I used to listen to that shit on loop all the time. And yeah, with that being said, y'all stay troppy and I'll catch y'all in the next one.